Hello, hello. Good morning, folks. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you're listening in part of the world. Listen, my name is Angel, and I'm the host of this great podcast, the Young Entrepreneur Mindset Podcast. Listen, if you're following me on Facebook, please share this content. We're going to have great podcast today. Great show. I have a special guest today, so I want you to tune in. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel and please listen to this YouTube video because you're going to want to tune in. We're going to be talking about building websites, all right, designing websites, and the three most annoying things that you can find on a website. So I have a special guest because this guy knows what he's talking about. So if you're looking to design your page, your website, or you already have one and you need to improve it, listen, he's going to give us some great tips. So I hope you guys could listen to this whole video because it's going to be a great podcast. So thank you again for joining. Subscribe, click that subscribe button, notification, because we're going to be dropping some good content. And this is going to be one that you don't want to miss. Tune in. All right, folks. Yeah. So, like I said, man, thank you again for joining the show, Young Entrepreneur Mindset Podcast. Listen, we're gonna have some great material today. So this is very important, man, because as you know, there's many websites out there, many people who know what they're doing, some who pretend that they know what they're doing, and then your websites don't work. They don't work out, right? And I've seen a lot of websites that are good, some that could be better, and whatnot. So today I have a special guest. His name is Jeff. All right, I met him through the internet and whatnot. So I'm gonna get to know him along with you guys as well. He has a great story. This guy was born an entrepreneur at a young age. He was out there hustling. He sold lemonade and cookies to cyclists who were passing by his house, and this guy knew from the very beginning how to make that money. Right in high school, he bought was it candy bars and Cracker Jacks. All right, and he sold them to his students. So this guy already had the entrepreneurship spirit at a very early age. So today he's joining me on this podcast because we're going to be talking about many things. So guys, please welcome Jeff. Jeff, how are you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. How are you, Angel?
Good, man. First of all, thank you for taking out your time. He's on the West Coast, guys, and this guy is 8 o'clock in the morning, and he's giving me the opportunity to have him on this podcast. Man, I'm so blessed and so honored to have you, man. How are you doing, man? How's everything?
I'm doing well. I've actually been up since about 6 because my
Oh,
almost 5-year-old woke me up. So
oh, the 5 year. Oh my
eight
God, I know
o'clock's
how
not
that
bad.
feels. Yeah, I know. My daughter is 9 years old. Thank God my daughter sleeps in pretty well. But there's time when she wants to get up on the weekends when it's not a school day and interrupt
Hmm.
that sleeping time. But anyways, Jeff. So
Yeah,
man, thank you so much for being here. So before we get into a lot of things that you do with web designing and we're gonna be talking about what are the top three most annoying things on the website. And trust me, I think there's a lot more than three, the three,
yes.
but we're gonna talk about those three top ones. So before we get into it, Jeff, talk to me a little bit about yourself. When you were growing up, who were your role models, your parents, any siblings and stuff like that. How was it growing up? And as I said, I could see in your bio, you started hustling at an early age. So talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I grew up in San Diego, California. I had two younger brothers who both turned
Okay.
out to be bigger than me, even though I'm the oldest.
Yeah.
But but that was fun. I had a good family, and my dad had a business, but he was a general contractor, so he was
Okay.
still doing all the work. So I got to see kind of a little bit of business from that side, not so much the marketing as much as just getting out there and getting the job done.
Okay.
My mom took care of us at home, um, and yeah, I think I always just kind of had some kind of itch to build things. So I
Yeah.
I built Legos and Connect sets and Erector sets, but I also like to create systems and eventually websites and things. And like you mentioned,
Okay.
I don't know if every weekend there's always a bunch of cyclists that would drive by our house. We were on some route that they would do, and so
Ah,
um, I had my dad build a lemonade stand because he's a
yeah.
contractor. So I had probably the fanciest lemonade stand there was.
Ah, okay.
Um, so got that set up. My mom helped me, make the lemonade and cookies and everything, and made the signs, and we got it out there. And of course, you guys are tired and
Yeah,
thirsty,
exactly.
so they got their lemonade, and they're usually there pretty early in the morning. So sometimes they wanted uh, cookies or coffee or things. I didn't do coffee as a kid.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
right.
um,
Now,
yeah, my
what
first.
age was this? How old were you?
This is elementary school, probably I don't know, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in
Yeah,
that range.
get out of
Um,
here.
it's yeah. So I got my first lesson in entrepreneurship too. When after the first couple times uh, selling stuff, I'm like, this is great. And my parents are like, okay, this is how much you owe us for the ingredients for the lemonade and everything. And I'm like,
Ah,
oh man, I'm like, oh.
yeah. They're taxing you early.
But I was like, okay, fine. I guess that makes sense. That's how it works.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, they're
Yep.
showing you the you have to buy the. You're lucky they didn't charge you for renting the space on the front
Yeah,
yard.
seriously.
That would be crazy. So then, so that started at early age. See, that's what I like this because that's why some people say the Young Entrepreneur Mindset podcast. It's not just because you're young now, but at a young age, you had that energy. You had that vision at an early age. Where I mean, myself at that age, I was, especially on the weekends, I would just wake up to watch cartoons. That was the only thing I could think about at
Hmm.
that time. But what year was this more or less? Is this in the 90s,
Oh,
2000s?
yeah, early 90s.
Early 90s. Okay. Okay. You're showing your age here. That's fine.
All good.
Yeah. So okay, so now you're doing that, and then but in high school, so now you're in high school, and you still have the mentality, right? To you purchase some goods, and you're selling them, and you're making a little profit. So talk to us about that in high school.
Yeah, well, I had bought a used car and it had a just an old stereo. Didn't really do much. I think it was a cassette player maybe, and the
Yeah.
speakers didn't sound very good. So I wanted to get a better sound system for it. And my first thought was, well, just kind of as a joke, took a coffee can around with a sign, say, "Donate to the CD player for Jeff's car fund." But my mom
Ah.
was like, "Hey, you're just begging. That's not cool." And I'm like, "Okay."
Oh, okay.
So she called me out on that, and I'm like, "You're right." So I went to, I think, Smart and Final was the store I went to, and just started buying candy and Cracker Jacks and stuff in bulk. Get like the king size candy bars, the stuff you couldn't get in the vending machines, and
Right.
I'd carry that around with me to my classes in between classes, and I'd sell that to the other students, and that's how I
Uh-huh.
started raising money to buy a nicer stereo for my car.
That's cool that your mom said you're begging because it's true because you're asking, you're not providing a service or
That's
selling
right.
any product. So that was a good tip because
Yep.
now you're making a profit, but you're providing, which of course, I mean, who doesn't use a candy bar in high school is sugar and those cravings that you get in high school and whatnot. So
Yep.
then after high school, so that's good to know. Thank you for sharing that.
Hmm.
So after high school, now do you go to college?
Yeah, I went to UC Irvine, which is here in Orange County, and I studied
Okay.
computer science, software systems,
Yeah.
um, and so I actually started working in that industry when I graduated, making cell phone games. Uh, but on
Wait
the
a minute.
side,
Making cell phone games?
cell phone games, yeah. So when I started, it was actually before smartphones took over the world. So it was just
Right.
your like flip phones or slide open phones,
Yeah.
and so our business model was the reason we could do it so well is we'd make a game, but then we'd put in these checks. Uh, so it would check what device it's running on, so how big the screen is, how much memory it has, how much storage it has, and then load up the right version for that phone. That
Okay.
way it wouldn't lag, it would load quickly, and it would all fit on the phone. So we had tools that we developed to make that happen, and so we
Right.
would charge publishers per build, meaning if you wanted to run on these 200 handsets, you got to charge us 200 times whatever the price is. But
Wow.
then smartphones started coming out, and then Sony and these different places are like, well, we just want it for like this iPhone and this other one over here, and suddenly the business model didn't work, which was not good for that company. It's no longer
Yeah.
around. But yeah, so I started doing that, and around that time, I started my own LLC because I wanted to start investing
Right.
on the side. I started doing some real estate investing. I owned a rental property in Indianapolis for a little
Hmm.
while. So I got property management to take care of it. Um, I don't know if you want me to keep talking about that, but I
Yeah, no,
can
go
if you
ahead.
want.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Give us a little bit of tips on that. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean, I studied lots of like tried to learn from real estate courses and things, and so I had a
Of
plan of what
course.
I was doing. But as with any business, you never know what's going to happen when. So when I bought it, I had a tenant in there. He was a good tenant, always paid on time. But then, like within a month of me buying it, that guy passed away,
Oh,
and
wow.
so like a neighbor found him, and then had to figure out next of kin, and then the place was a mess. So right off the bat, I had to, I didn't have income from him, and I had to put out money to fix up
Of
the place
course.
and then try and get it rented again,
Yeah.
and
'Cause
just
that's your
had
investment, you know?
exactly. So that made
Yeah.
it a rocky start because, uh, you know, when you're putting more cash out and not money coming in, it's always stressful.
No,
Um,
it is, man. But thanks for sharing that because that's important to focus on because you would think that I mean, as entrepreneurs, we try different, opportunities, different investments,
mhm.
Some work out, some work out, but the ones that don't work out, you learn from them.
Yeah,
So talk to
definitely.
me about thanks for sharing the story, man. That's an awesome story. I know but you have probably a lot more to emphasize on that, but now that you're in college, you're taking the computer science course and whatnot, what was your focus during college or maybe what you wanted to pursue after college?
Well, I was always torn because, I had the entrepreneurial side of like kind of wanting to do my own thing, um,
Right.
but of course, at the same time, you're always like, okay, I gotta pay the bills. This is the path that you're supposed to take. Go to college, get a job, and things. And so I did, go to job fairs, and I ended up, like I said, working for that cell phone game company. I worked for
Okay.
a couple other companies, but I always, ever since I finished college, always had something on the side. So whether it was the real estate or eventually I sold stuff on Amazon for a while, had my own brand and a blog. Um, and I could talk about that too. But there was always the part of me that wants to go do more entrepreneurial stuff, but
Yeah.
fighting the urge to be the like responsible, make sure there's a steady income. Um, and of course, that was always easier when I was single because I didn't have as many responsibilities. But once I got married, I'm like, okay, I really gotta, make sure
Ah,
I'm making money here.
exactly. So how long have you been married now? How's the marriage life? And you have a 5-year-old son?
I've been married 10 years. I've got my oldest will turn 5 in a couple weeks. The middle one is 2.5, and then we've got a almost 6 month old.
Oh wow. Okay. So you busy father over there, man. That's awesome, man. Blessings to your
Yeah,
family. That's awesome.
thank you.
So okay, so now you get out of college and so let's get into what we really want to hear today, which is, the website. Because how did you come up? And I see there with the Frobro Web Technologies, which guys you could follow him Instagram, Twitter, Facebook through the right there you see the Frobro Web Technologies. How did you come up with the name? Obviously, you guys could see, you got the fro bro there going the fro. So how was the whole concept? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, I've actually always been interested in computers and technology, and I've been making my own websites since high school. Made them by hand at that point. At one point, I bought an HTML reference book and pretty much read it cover to cover and taking notes and trying to use it as I'm learning all the different tips and things.
Yeah.
Um, and so from there, it got more sophisticated over the years. And in between, doing these different ventures, I actually use some of that knowledge, making my own websites for the blog and things. Um, but people would always ask me to make them websites. So like my parents,
Ah,
I made websites for them. Other friends,
okay.
asked me to make them websites. So at a certain point, I was like, hey, you know what? This is a skill I have. I like doing
Mm,
it. I might as well turn this into an actual business. And so I did that. I think around 2014, I kind of made Frobro Web Technologies official in terms of the name. Uh, but
okay.
but the background is, for my hair at least, that's
Yeah.
obviously a big part of it. When I was growing up, I just had a crew cut, like a flat top, and
Ah,
from the time I
okay.
was little, that's just what I had. It's what I knew. Went to the barbershop, easy, done. But in high school, my mom, she was always, pushing me to grow out your hair, grow out your hair. And so I finally did. And it turned out as this, curly,
Yeah, this puffy.
massive bit of hair on
Yeah.
top. So I liked it. Other people liked it. So I kept it. And it kind of gave me, eh, made me stand out a little bit. So I got a
Yeah.
nickname, Jeffro. In the halls at school, I used to be just kind of like more of a, not shy, but just, I knew a few kids in my class and that was fine. And now I'd walk through the hallways and random people would like reach out and try to touch my hair just to
Okay.
see what it felt like.
Yeah. That's pretty much the design that all the kids now have is they shade down here and they have this big puffy thing. We see that a lot here, and I see that a lot. The students here is like it's a weird haircut. Back then,
Yeah, I
yeah,
like having a little more here. It makes it look a little. I like the appeal overall a little better.
exactly. And I like the design you have on your website because I saw the guy with like his arms like this. He has the glasses, and then you had the
Yeah,
robot. Like, you design all that, and that's awesome.
yeah, I have fun with it. I've gone through several iterations of the design.
That's cool,
But
man.
yeah, the whole idea, at least with applying that name to the company, is that like the Fro gave me an elevated identity and made me stand out. That's what a good
Exactly.
professional website should do for your business. It should set you apart and make people notice you.
Exactly. Then let's get into that. So for you, let's start off with the three most annoying things on the website. Let's talk about that. So go ahead and give us some tips on that. Most annoying things on the website.
Yeah, there's a lot of annoying things people do. I'd say
I
one of
know.
the most annoying is pop-ups. Um,
Okay.
I'm not opposed to having a strategically placed or well-timed pop-up that provides value to the user. But what I see a lot is there's just a ton of pop-ups and it's getting in the way of the user doing what they need to do on your website.
A
So
distraction. Yeah.
yeah, like I pulled up a recipe on my phone the other day, and I don't know if recipe sites are all like this, but there's about 4 or 5 different pop-ups. They're blocking half the screen. I'm trying to scroll past them to get to the recipe, and I can't because they just keep covering the whole thing, and that's super
Ah,
annoying. So it's like, why would I want to bookmark this site to come back next time if all you're doing is flashing ads in my face? So I'd
okay.
say if you're going to use a pop-up, you got to use it sparingly, right? So decide what's something of value you can offer to the
Yeah.
visitor so that they're not going to be annoyed, first of all. And if it's
Okay.
the first thing you see when you land on a page, of course you're going to be annoyed. It's like, I'm trying to look for this article, and you're blocking it for me. So don't show right away. Maybe wait until I've had enough time to read the article or scroll down through most of the article, then show it
Right.
to me. Don't just ask for something like, hey, sign up for this. Like, maybe offer me something like, hey, we'll send you a free ebook of recipes for your
Exactly.
email address. Okay, I'm willing to do that now because you've given me
You
value.
saw. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's not just like shouting at people, because that's what it feels like when all these pop-ups are coming in your face. You feel like you're just being accosted and you're like, leave me alone. um,
Exactly.
so
That's crazy
that's number one.
because yeah, no, that's good. The pop-ups being the number one because yesterday I'm studying this whole YouTube thing too with algorithms and all these tips, and that's why I started my podcast actually different. I usually start with the video, and then some people when they see the same thing over and over, they just either skip it or they just don't tune in. So that's why I was like, tune in, guys, at the beginning. But it's
Mhm.
funny because the pop-ups in YouTube, there's sometimes on the very top it says suggestion, so it'll suggest
Mhm.
you. And when a guy that was following, he said, take off, don't put those suggestions because if someone's looking at your video in the first minute and you get suggestions, they're already distracted. They're going to click on it and they're going to forget about your
Right.
video and you're not going to have those. So that's very important, man. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so that's
Yeah,
number
sure.
one. What's the second one?
Number two, something that's really annoying are the autoplay videos. So sometimes
Okay.
they're inside a pop-up, but sometimes they're just part of the actual page, and it just starts playing. And it's the worst when there's sound too, because you might be
Okay.
like sitting on the couch, just doing some work, try to open an article, and then you forgot your sound was on loud, and it's just like blasting at you, and it wakes up your kid over here, and you're like, and
Ah,
it's trying to
yeah.
stop it, and that's super annoying. It's like, if I want to watch the video, I'll press play.
Okay.
And then there's also some sites I've seen that have this really annoying feature where it doesn't start right away. So then you do stuff, you go navigate somewhere else, and then suddenly you hear sound and you're like, where's this coming from? And you've got
Okay.
to go through like 40 or 50 tabs and like, okay, which one is
Ah,
playing sound, and turn it off. So anytime a site has video that plays automatically, especially with sound, I find that super annoying. And
okay.
again, it's almost invasive, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's distracting. Anything that's distracting now, and any type of video, audio, it's gonna take value away from what you're trying to do. That's the way I
Right.
see it. So, but those auto, and all these things that you're giving these advice is something that when you do web design, you carefully look at those things, correct?
Right. Well, like I said with the pop-ups, it's not that you can never use a pop-up. It's that you
Right.
need to be strategic about it and think about
Okay.
the experience for the visitor.
Exactly.
It
Okay.
should be
Okay.
adding value.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So that's the second one. Go ahead with the third one.
The slow load time. That's
Oh
just
yeah.
annoying because people don't like to wait, especially in our culture. We're used to like, Twitter and sound bites and everything happening now,
Fast. Yeah.
which is great. But then when it doesn't happen, it's really, really obnoxious, especially if you're in a rush. So if someone's site doesn't load quickly or snappy, you just get mad at them, right? You're like, come
Exactly.
on, like,
Yeah.
so making sure that you have a fast web host, so the files get served quickly, making sure you use proper. You're thinking about the size of your images on the page, uh, all of those things that factor into load time.
Exactly.
Can make a big difference. So obviously, it's annoying for your users to have to wait, and they might leave and try somewhere else, right?
Exactly.
But it's also actually bad for your SEO ranking because Google and
Okay.
other search engines have started looking at load time as a ranking metric. So if you and
Okay.
another site are tied in terms of authority and ranking for a certain page, but there's
Yeah.
loads faster, guess what? You're going to be ranked below them.
Now, give us a little tip on that because for some listeners that are like, "What's SEO?" I've heard of it. I don't understand it too much myself. So, what is the SEO? What does that stand for, and what is it?
Yeah, sorry to throw out the acronyms there.
No, no,
SEO
no. That's
stands
good.
for search engine optimization. So
Search
that means
engine.
optimizing your website for the search engines to
Okay.
find it and rank it well. Um, there's a little bit of technical on-page SEO that you need to do to make sure that you're talking to the search engine and giving it the information it needs.
It needs.
And then there's off-page SEO, which is like getting your information elsewhere that points back to your site to help build authority of your site to show that you're legit,
Okay.
and all your information is accurate. And these are the things that you do. So, for example, let's say um, if you're a street sweeping company,
Okay.
you want to make sure your page is ranking well for street sweeping Los Angeles or wherever you are. So you need to have that phrase, that's a key phrase or keyword that
Okay.
you would put somewhere in your page, usually in the title or header, kind of work it in to your content somewhere. Um, so you're basically telling Google, hey, this is what my page is about. And it needs to know
Okay.
that so that when a person goes to Google and types in street sweeping Los Angeles, Google says,
Right.
oh, I know a site that talks about that. Here you go. Right.
Ah.
So
Okay.
that's just oversimplified version, but that's kind of what the whole idea is, because you
Okay.
want to rank higher than your competitors for those same keywords. You want to rank better in certain geographic areas. So showing
Absolutely.
up in Los Angeles as opposed to Chicago or something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a quick overview.
Okay. Okay. So long load times. Let's talk about that because there's that happens a lot when you see the load times.
Mhm.
What generates that? It's a load time. Is it the I don't what causes that?
That's a great question, and there's a lot of layers to it. So a number of
Okay.
things can contribute to the slowness, and if you don't address any of them, they all just stack up and you get a really slow website. So
Right.
the server where your website lives, that's one aspect of it, because what happens is a person makes a request for a web page, and then the server says, "Okay, here's the web page," and gives it to them. Right. Most people are on some economy hosting on GoDaddy or wherever.
I was
Um,
gonna say that the GoDaddy. That's very
Yes,
famous.
but
Yeah.
what you're doing there is you're actually sharing compute resources with other websites that
Okay.
you don't know.
So there's a
So,
lot of traffic. Can I say
um,
that or no?
what I'm saying is someone coming to your website might have to wait for someone else's website to load first
Ah,
because it's one server with multiple websites on it, and they're just like, here you go, here you go, here you go, and it's not a
okay,
dedicated server just for you.
okay,
So, I mean, if you're just starting out or have a blog, you might not necessarily want to pay for your own server, but
yeah,
the faster your web host is, that's one factor.
okay,
One way to kind of get around that is to use a CDN, which is a content delivery network. Maybe you've
okay,
heard of Cloudflare or something like that. Uh, a content delivery network is uh, a network of computers and servers across different regions. So you might have some on the West Coast, East Coast, different countries, and they store copies of your website at each of these locations. So
right.
that way, when I want to go to your website, it gets intercepted and sends me a copy of it from the closest server. So rather than my original server who's on the East Coast, if I go to it now, I'm going to get it from Los Angeles, and it's going to load a lot faster.
Ah, okay, all right. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for clarifying that, because I seen that on websites too, and it's like, man, what's taking so long? And then it loses value.
Yeah, that's
Um,
just one aspect. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so speaking of those annoying things, well, not so much of the annoying things, but what are some basic things someone can do to improve the search engine ranking?
hmm So we kind of started touching on it. One thing that I see a lot of people miss is just the title of their page. So in a lot of
Yeah,
themes or templates, this is your homepage, right? Contact page about.
right.
Nothing wrong with that. In the menu, that makes sense. People know to click on home to go back to the homepage.
Exactly.
So it's fine to call it home in the menu, but for the actual title of the page, give it a name
Ah,
that's meaningful,
okay.
right? That way the search engine knows what this page is about. I'm sure there's millions of websites in Google's index that all say home,
Yeah,
right? That's
yeah.
not helpful.
No.
So for me, instead of saying home, Frobro Web, it says, I have to look at it, but something like web design, SEO, and hosting, Frobro Web Technologies. So those
Okay.
are things that I do, and that's telling Google that my page is relevant for those search terms. So that's a quick, simple thing that anyone can do on their own website to help bump them up in the rankings a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's say someone goes and visit your website, let's say after the show and whatnot, and
Mhm.
they contact you, your information is there. What are the first steps? Like, you want to get to know what their ideas are, what's their target audience and stuff like that. What they
Yeah, so I'll start with conversation and figure out. I typically work with businesses, so I'll
Okay,
find out more about your business, what you do, where you're at now in terms of like the customers and the amount of business you're doing, and where you're trying to go, what this website needs to do. Because
right.
sometimes it's just an informational website about the company, so that there's a place that people can contact them, and there's
Okay,
nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
But other businesses have more needs in a website, so they might have a lot more forms or applications on their website. They might want to have a login for their customers and a
Okay,
dashboard for them to do something, and then of course there's e-commerce sites too, which then you have a full working shopping cart on that site. So we
exactly.
kind of get all that understood, make sure we know what we're trying to do, and then from there I can move on to creating some designs and mock-ups and kind of fleshing out what we want the design to look like so that it matches your brand, looks professional,
Okay,
and then we can move into some of the research and copywriting phase where we are uh, looking at some of those strategic keywords that we want to rank for,
right.
writing the messaging on the site so that yes, we have the keyword sprinkled in there, but we also mainly have to be talking to the visitor, the person coming to the
Okay,
page, so that they're doing, so we convey the information we want and maybe doing the thing we want them to do. So whether that's
okay.
making an appointment or calling us, sending an email, filling out a form, we need to make sure we're speaking their language, giving them
Yeah,
what they want, make them feel comfortable working with the company. And so that can take a while to kind of work all that out and make sure it's effective. And then from there,
okay.
it's just kind of building it out and then optimizing it for load time and things like that.
Yeah, because I see also on websites, some people have on their website, subscribe to the newsletter, and then,
hmm
is that just basically to collect the data from the people, or
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously as a business owner, you want to collect email addresses. You want to know who your customers are, or at least interested
in your
parties are, because then
products.
you can get in front of them. That's
Okay.
one of the benefits of having your own website, and as opposed to just being on Facebook or something else.
Yeah.
You have full control over your look and feel, but you also own your own audience. Like with a Facebook page, if you put a post up, maybe 3% of the people are going to see it.
Yeah.
Unless you boost the post, you got to pay extra money for your own followers to see it.
Exactly.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. I've
So,
made that mistake in the past too, and I stopped doing that on Facebook.
well, it didn't used to be that way, but that's the problem. They can change the rules anytime. But if it's your
Right.
own website and you own the email list, then you can email your people whenever you want. So
Directly.
that's why that's there. I will remind everybody, like we talked about earlier with the pop-ups, don't just ask someone to subscribe, give them a reason to subscribe. So whether that's
Exactly.
a free report or a gift or something, make it worth their email address, make it a no-brainer for them to say, here's my email address.
Exactly. Exactly. That's perfect, man. Thank you. And um now how to promote a website. Let's talk about that, because a lot of people have websites, but it seems like if you don't talk about it, like nobody knows about it, nobody could follow you. How do we promote that website?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter how pretty it is if no one ever sees it, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So I think a problem here that a lot of people run into is they immediately say, okay, I got to start running ads or something like that, whatever their go-to thing is. I'd say you have to start with who is my customer and where is my customer?
Okay.
Because depending on your business, that the answer to that question will change. So if the answer is, oh, my customers are, young people on Facebook, then yes, go on Facebook, post there, run ads there, great. But if it is a different demographic that's not on Facebook, don't waste your time running ads on Facebook. Maybe you should
Exactly.
be going to a local professional association and speaking to get in front of your target market, right? Is it business
Okay.
owners in your area? Because that would be different if it's, 50, 60-year-olds as opposed to the younger people who are on Facebook. So knowing your target audience can help you decide where to go and how to promote the website.
Okay.
I can talk
All
about
right.
some of the options if you want to go more into
Yeah, yeah, if you
other
don't
things,
mind, a
but
little bit more. Yeah.
sure. So like Facebook ads is one, Google
Okay.
ads, of course. Um, Search engine optimization is a strategy, because if you commit to that within 6 to 12 months, if you're just working on SEO, um, then over time you're going to get up to the top of the list for your keywords, and it's going to be really hard to knock you down for that. So there's search engine, there's SEO, search engine optimization, and then there's SEM, which is search engine marketing, which really just
Yeah,
means you're paying for ads on the search results.
pretty
So when you do
much.
a search, you see the few at the top that say sponsored or ad. That's what that is. That means somebody paid to show up for that keyword.
Ah, okay,
So
okay.
that's an approach as well. If you're like, I'm not going to bother writing all this content or optimizing my keywords, I'm just going to pay Google like to show me at the top. Like, okay,
Exactly,
if you got
exactly.
money, you can do that.
Yeah. Now, how reliable are website speed tests? Talk a little bit about that.
Uh,
First of
so
all, how
there's
do you do a speed test? First of all, because to understand how reliable they are, what is a speed test? How you
Sure.
do that?
That's a great question. So there's a number of different tests out there. There's Google Page Speed Insights, which is pretty
Okay.
popular. There's GT Metrics, Y Slow. They all do things a little differently, but they give you a lot of the same numbers.
Yeah.
Um, with any website speed test, you got to take it with a grain of salt,
Okay.
because uh, it's going to be almost impossible to get 100% on every factor that they're testing,
Hmm.
just because your website needs to do something. And sometimes doing those things, uh, it requires a little bit of time or loading that has to happen. Um, and there's some things that you don't control. So, for example, if you're putting on uh, a Google Analytics tag or a Facebook pixel on your site, and
Yeah.
the speed test says, "Hey, you need to speed up this load time, or change the caching expiration on this file," and you're like, "I don't control that file. It comes from Facebook or Google." So
Right.
there's some stuff you can't control, but the tests are really helpful when it comes to the things you can control, like optimizing your images, for example. Um, I think that's a big thing that slows down a lot of websites. people just take the picture that they took on their phone or whatever, and it's 12 megapixels, and then they're showing it on a screen that's this big. um, the thing that people don't realize is that even though the browser's showing it this big, it loaded
Yeah,
the whole big image and then squished it down. So before you publish that website, you need to shrink your image, then put the smaller image on your website so that it loads quickly and you're not wasting all that bandwidth and that time,
exactly.
loading that huge image that nobody's going to see.
That's crazy, man. I appreciate that. So let's say last but not least, because I see here, would you accept payments in Bitcoin for your services? Because Bitcoin is this big thing now. And I seen one of the questions here on the interview questions. And what do you think about that with the Bitcoin and payments?
Yeah, no, I think I would. I think we're still early in the adoption cycle of Bitcoin. I think it's inevitable that it's coming. When you look at the regulations that some of the government organizations have rolled out, they're actually planning to treat this as a real thing. And you get a
Okay.
lot of legitimate financial institutions coming on board too, offering crypto trading to their clients. So if you're going to bet on anything, bet on Wall Street greed, because they want to make fees off of all
Yeah,
this. So I'd say, yeah, I'd take Bitcoin.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's going to be the future of payments as we could see right now.
Mhm.
So, Jeff, man, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate your time. So, just a quick overview. Number one, pop ups, one of the most annoying things. So,
Mhm.
control those pop ups, those are distractions. Autoplay videos, they're not bad, but if you have all this sound that's coming from somewhere, you don't get distracted, and that's annoying. And slow load times. So, those are very good tips, man. I appreciate it, man. Jeff, I appreciate your time. Hopefully, maybe sometime in the future we can connect again and bring some more stuff. So you could be reached at the Frobo Web Technologies, right? And
Yep.
and all your information is there on your website.
Yeah, if you go to froberweb.com, you'll find everything there. Froberweb.com/contact, you'll see
Okay.
my information. You can schedule a free 15-minute call with me. I'd be happy to talk to you about your website, give you some ideas for how to improve it. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at FroberWeb.
Okay. Good. Actually, I have two websites because I run some businesses with a friend of mine.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna send you those websites just so you look at it and maybe give you some tips as to what we can do because I don't see there's too much traffic,
Sure.
with the website, and that's where, as a small business, where we, struggle at the beginning of any, business and whatnot. So,
Yeah, I'd be happy
but
to take a look.
yeah, man, I'll send you that to you now through maybe through Messenger, or I'll send you your email so you could see that as well and any tips. Man, I greatly appreciate it, Jeff. Thank
Sure
you for
thing.
your time, man. And I hope that, through this podcast, you're able to get maybe some leads, some businesses and whatnot. I have a lot of friends are commenting and stuff like that. So I appreciate everyone tuning in and sharing this content. So, Jeff, once again, man, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. You have a great weekend with your family. All right.
All right. Thanks, you too. Thanks for having me on.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye. All right, folks. Well, there we have it, man. As you can see, you can follow him once again under Frobro Web Technologies. You can follow him on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatnot, through that same name. And again, guys, the audio download, as you can see, is going to be available through these platforms. So, thank you again for joining me. I hope you guys could share this content, subscribe to the channel. I hope you enjoyed this information because these are some very important tips. And I'm going to be showing him some of the stuff that I have. So, guys, once again, you can see here drymailbox.com. Visit my website, all right, because this is for the insert for the mailboxes here in Florida, especially with all this rain that we're getting right now. So, visit the website there. As you know, I also have my energy. You can see here my energy drink, man. I had my coffee this morning, but if you're into natural supplements, go ahead and go to Energy Gold Sticks. Look up the website there. That's my wife's website, and if you're into natural products, you're gonna really enjoy these products. All right. So thank you guys for joining. I want to leave you guys with this a word that something that I like to do at the end of my shows is just to share a positive note. It's under Proverbs 14:3, and it says, "Proud fools talk too much. The words of the wise protect them." Very simple. All right, guys. So thank you, man. Have a blessed weekend. And I'll see you on the next show sometime soon. I'll keep you guys posted of what's going to happen on the next show. So thank you, guys. Enjoy your weekend. Take care and thanks for tuning in.